All right, everybody, we are back again for this new edition of the Rebel Sports Podcast on this Thursday, October 16th, 2014. Guys, Halloween's almost here, and finally, UNLV does not scare us. Actually, no, wait, they did.
No, that was
It was a little scary.
That was a little
Nevada
scary.
Day is almost here. That's the real holiday.
Nevada Day? What do people do on Nevada Day? I
It's
feel like...
why we don't celebrate
Drink.
Columbus Day. It's because of Nevada Day.
Really?
Yep.
Is that real?
You
I
only
know
get,
that's what Mary House said. So
it has to be true.
Then it has to
Mary, knowing Mary, there was a high level of sarcasm when she said that.
that's true.
Was there really? But, yeah. In this state, Halloween doesn't matter. It's Nevada Day.
Yeah.
All day, every day. But thanks for joining us, guys. Another hot October day, and it's hot in this room, but we have a door open, and hopefully we won't die of heat stroke this week. So thanks for joining us, guys. I'm the sports editor, Danny Webster, joined by senior staff writers Jordan Aguilar, Randy Fainrich, and Jesse Granger. So, guys, UNLV football. Kind of a bad segue from me, as always, but, I mean, hey, they're 2-5. And there is some optimism for this football team after probably one of the bigger upset wins this program has had in recent memory, with defending conference champ Fresno State coming in to Sam Boyd Stadium. UNLV jumped out to a 17-0 halftime lead. Fresno State came back, tied it 27-27, heading into overtime before Nico Bornan drills the 33-yard game-winning field goal. UNLV 2-5, 1-2 in conference play. They're off this week. So a much-needed bye week to get everybody healthy before this crucial set of 3 games coming up this week. But guys, first thoughts: UNLV back on the winning track after a very tough month away from Sam Boyd.
I think we finally got to see what this team can do if they just don't turn the ball over. They finally held on to the ball this game. It's the first game this season that they've won the turnover battle. They got 3 turnovers, only turned it over once. And the one turnover was about as good of a turnover as you can ask for, because Blake Decker basically punted it with his arm 60 yards. It was like a Hail Mary pick, so it wasn't like a killer that starts Fresno on your side. So this offense, we talked about how bad they are, but they have moved the ball. They haven't struggled that much to move the ball. It's just when they get down there, they either screw it up and do a fake field goal, or they turn the ball over. So I think we finally got to see what they can do if they don't turn the ball over. At least I said going in, Fresno State is not that good. I think these two teams, as far as if you just go position by position, talent-wise, they're not that much worse. Just Fresno had been playing a lot better with a lot better coaching. Fresno had some horrible coaching decisions in that game. After I praised DeRuiter, goes out and coaches the worst game of his life.
They heard you.
And as bad as the kick was by Leyva, and everyone's talking about UNLV's kicking problems, Fresno State's kicker,
Yes.
Holy mother of God, this guy. Okay, so a football field is 53 yards wide, 53 and a half yards wide. And he had, 4 kickoffs? And he didn't hit the field on half of them. Like, screw making it through the field goal post. This guy cannot hit a football field with a kickoff. He was like 3 of 4 on his extra point attempts, and the 3 that went in barely made it. I'm talking he drilled it like a foot over the crossbar. And he is the reason that they went for it in overtime when it was an easy field goal. They could have, and then UNLV would have had to score a touchdown to win. The reason they only had to kick a field goal was because Fresno State absolutely did not trust that kicker. They went for it on 4th down a bunch of times in field goal range during regulation and in overtime. So as bad as the kicking was by Leyva, UNLV actually won because they had the kicking edge in that game.
Amazingly.
I just want to know where the hell this team came from. Like, what team did we just watch on Friday? Because that wasn't the team that's played the first 6 weeks of the season.
They came back home.
They got smoked at home earlier. So it doesn't, I mean, just the team, that was a completely different team. It was an inspired performance, and I applaud them for that. As much slack as I give Bobby, I thought it was a great coaching outing by Bobby Houck. I thought he did really well, except for that stupid fake punt that we might get into in a little bit. I thought the team played very well despite being so banged up. I mean, that's one of the reasons why they've been losing a lot, is because they are so brutally banged up on both sides of the ball. But I thought they played very well. I will admit, though, when they succumbed the lead, I thought it was over. I thought Fresno was winning that football game because UNLV had been in that situation time and time again, and it was inspiring to see them inspired. to see them really want to put on a good performance for homecoming. I mean, I can't remember the last time UNLV won a homecoming game. Being completely honest, I think we played Fresno last year too on homecoming and got smoked.
No,
Wasn't it
Fresno was at Fresno last year.
Yes.
So who did we play on home? Anyway, we got
Homecoming
beat.
was San Jose State.
That's right,
And they
and we
lost.
got beat. That's right. So it was good to see them inspired and see them get a win. However, I fear that was like the only remaining one of the only remaining games that really matters to them. I still feel like this season's lost. I still feel like they're not going to do anything. I don't think they're going to build off this at all, just knowing how this team has been in the past. But for that single performance, I thought that was a good performance. I saw some things that I really liked. I saw UNLV rushing the ball 46 times. That's what I really like to see. I don't like seeing Blake Decker being the second leading rusher on top of having a great passing game, but, we'll take it. I like the resurgence of Shaq Moo.
Shaq's my boy.
Jesse's head was exploding in the press box when Shaq was making plays on the field.
He is so good after the catch. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah, he's elusive.
he looks like a little Darren Sproles out there
I
catching
like
it.
the Trent Richardson braids that he's kind of doing in the back right there. I like that too. So I saw some good things. Decker looked good. He looked like the quarterback we expected to see coming into the season, I think. The receiving core was great. I thought a lot of key catches, a lot of good catches.
Devontae Boyd stepping up.
Devontae
With
Boyd.
And your boy Matele, crucial
Of
third down
course.
catch on the final drive.
One catch for 9 yards, but it is the catch that they needed on third down. So overall, like I said, for that game, I thought that was a greatly played game. Very well done. Great coaching on Bobby Houck's part. So I'm not going to be too negative going forward. But
I think there's a few stats when I'm looking here that you can easily see why they won the game. We talked about earlier in the year, third downs that were awful. Went 8 for 21. Fresno went 2 for 14 on third down. That obviously is a huge factor.
And Bobby Houck, when he came in the press conference, he sat down, looked at the stat sheet, and said, "Well, third down's decided it."
Yep.
So there you
You
go.
can tell. Turnovers, like you said, that's been huge. And I think Blake Decker has shown when he can play well, this team can play well. I mean, he went 29 for 40, over 300 yards. Like you said, had that one interception, but he played well. I don't like Randy said, I don't like seeing him run so much, but he's athletic. He's going to have to make plays on his own sometimes. And like we said, Devontae Boyd and Devontae Davis' absence, this dude has stepped up. He's playing very well this year. He's got a bright future ahead. So no, it was good. It was good to see them in that first half. You kind of knew that something was going to happen in that second half. You knew Fresno wasn't going to be held down that long. And like you said, thank God for Fresno's kicking game, because I thought UNLV's kicking game was shaky, but Fresno's was pretty awful. It was pretty awful.
And to think about it, if they don't miss that extra point after Fresno State takes this lead, we might be talking about a different ballgame.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And all those points that they left on the board going for it
Yeah.
on UNLV's end when they could have just kicked field goals.
Bobby still ain't off the hook for putting in Leva at the end of the game instead of putting in Bornett. I don't care what you said about he thinks that Leva's the close range guy. That was a ridiculous decision, just as dumb as his fake punt. After Bornett just nailed a 50 freaking yard field goal. I mean, come on. I don't care if Leva's the guy on short range. Like, he just nailed a 50-yarder. When's the last time a kick? Well, I think for the Hawaii game, how long was that field goal?
It was like 42.
Cohorts. So okay, but still, you put the
It
guy
tied
that
the
just
longest.
nailed a
It tied the
50
longest. The game against the field goal against Northern Colorado. He tied the record for
Right.
longest in
So
UNLV history.
then you put that guy in. I don't care if you think Leva's a short yardage
And
guy.
you're going to be even angrier next game because we talked to Houck after the game, and he still says if it's inside, I think it's the 25-yard line or whatever.
I don't even trust it.
He has an imaginary line, and the reason him and the coaching
He can kick extra points.
The reason he and the coaching
He can
staff
kick
feel
extra
this way
points.
is because in the spring they had him kick a ridiculous amount of field goals, probably like 500 field goals or whatever from inside that range and outside. And according to Bobby, Leva is significantly better on the close ones, and he just can't.
Bobby,
he just doesn't
along
have
with
the
the
leg.
other 9,000 kickers that's in America right now, everybody's easier and better close range.
No.
That's a
I mean he's
stupid-
better. No, I mean he's better than Bornand. Bornand is more erratic on those close range ones than Leva. Leva would probably be the full-time kicker if he had the leg for the long ones. He
Well, I
just
like
doesn't.
to use simple logic here. Some guy
No,
just
I
hit a
agree with you.
50-yarder.
No, I agree.
Some
I
guy
think-
missed a 12-yarder.
I think
I'm gonna go
Bornand
with
should
the guy
be the
that
kicker
kicked
from
him.
now on. I agree, but I don't think that's what's going to happen.
Has college kicking ever been as bad? Have you guys ever seen
No,
college
between
kicking?
UMass
Nobody
and
can
Washington
kick.
State, I mean,
Nobody can kick. These
Blame Kyle Grossman.
these 5-star
Yes, the
programs.
curse of
Oregon, my
Grossman.
favorite team, Oregon, has got like a lineup of nothing but 5-star athletes. They cannot find a kicker to save their life.
Arizona be undefeated right now. Missed the kick.
Yes.
I
just
just
saying.
There's only one position harder to find than quarterback, and that's kicker.
Yes.
I would gladly switch the kicker at LSU for a quarterback. It ain't hard.
And
Yeah.
before we move on, guys, I do want to mention, though, time of possession. UNLV has been dominating time of possession. 8 minutes longer they had the ball more than Fresno State.
And
That
you
is
got to
huge.
see, you
And
got to
they
see
had
what
the
happens
ball,
when the defense is
and
rested.
they had the ball 10 minutes in the fourth quarter. That even though Fresno State came back and tied that game in the fourth quarter, for UNLV to have the ball for 10 minutes in the fourth quarter, that is impressive.
And we talked about it last week when we were talking about how bad the defense is. It's because they're so tired, and we finally got to see what a rested defense looks like, and they weren't bad.
No, they weren't.
They were good.
They just didn't know how to stop Josh Harper.
Yeah, Josh Harper.
Josh Harper's a beast.
That
He's going to
kid's
be
playing on Sunday.
Josh Harper
Oh,
is
yeah.
playing on Sundays.
He's so good.
He's going to go round 2, round 3, maybe round 1 if he keeps this up. I mean, 12 catches for $187.
If he had a quarterback like Devontae Adams did, if he had Derek Carr at Fresno, he would shatter every Devontae Adams record that might be there.
And the thing, I mean, here's what we're talking about: Fresno State. Josh Harper had a really good year last year. It was only overshadowed by Devontae Adams and how great he is.
Josh Harper's
He is a beast.
He made some plays, not just the stats, but like just physically, just watching him. He made some plays.
Everybody
like,
knows the
wow.
one catch.
Oh,
The
that-
one that should have been knocked
That
down.
should have been either
Three
knocked down or
defenders
picked.
or whatever, yeah.
That was just insane.
But some ones where he would catch the ball with 3 defenders around him and just make all 3 of them miss for the first down. I think it was like a 4th and 12, and he caught it like 3 yards down past the line of scrimmage.
He's
and
one of those special
broke
talents.
tackles.
Mountain West has.
I think the most significant, obviously, drive of this year was that last drive in the fourth quarter where they had to go down to kick the field goal and
Yes.
actually tie the game.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Not to tie the game, but to win.
No, to tie it.
in
The one
fourth
that tied it at
in
27
the fourth quarter.
Oh.
with Bernard's long field.
I thought the drive to send out Leyva to win it was more impressive than that drive.
up until the last play.
Up until the
yeah.
I mean, take the kicker out of the
Decker
equation.
was clutch.
Blake Decker was amazing on that final drive, and that passed Anthony Williams on the left side with 10 seconds
To
to
the
go.
10-yard line?
That
Yeah.
was one hell of a throw
Mhm.
in a tight window.
He made some really good throws while getting the crap knocked out of him on a
Yes.
few plays. And I made the comparison before the season of Johnny Manziel, which is a ridiculous comparison, but he's a poor man's Johnny Manziel. I said it before the season. I don't know if he's going to be that great. What he's going to be is exciting because he likes to run around and he will force it, and that's why he has so many interceptions. But when he has a good game, it's really good because he's the opposite of Sherry. He'll take chances,
Yes.
and sometimes it burns him, but when it doesn't, he ends up with an awesome game like this.
And here's a scary thought. A week off, Devontae Davis probably comes back against Utah State in a couple weeks.
They needed that.
This
bye week
offense
so bad.
this offense has a ton of potential without Devontae Davis in the lineup. You put him back in, the sky is the limit. We have seen it. It's just a matter of can
If they get him the ball.
It's just a
If
matter
they get
of
the ball. It's just a matter of
going
can
on
they
the
be
road.
consistent. Yes, going on the road and number one, playing competent football, and number two, actually getting Devontae Davis the football. Which that is going to be the big thing in 2 weeks. Like I said, UNLV's on a bye week, so they don't play until October 25th, I believe it is.
That's going to be a tough game.
if they could I honestly, I'll tell you right now, they're not going up to Utah State and winning. But if they somehow were to do that, then they could be on a 4-game winning streak.
Yes.
Coming home against the
New Mexico?
two most
if
winnable.
their defense can play like they did
Yeah,
against Fresno,
but-
because the 5 games prior to the Fresno game, New Mexico and Air Force combined will rush for about 1,300 yards
but-
on UNLV.
If you look at their home games, they've played well at home. They won their 13-12. I mean, that game would have been a blowout if they wouldn't have turned the ball over 600 times against
Yes.
Northern Colorado. That game should have been a blowout, but it wasn't. But they won, and then the Northern Illinois game was the only time we've seen this team show fight in them. They came back and tied it, and then ended up losing. But
And then this game.
game they showed fight. So the difference between home and away is really, really drastic.
It's like
which is why I think
the
they have no
narrative
chance
from-
in this next game.
Yeah.
because
The
they're going on the
narrative
road.
from a couple of years ago was that this team was terrible on the road. UNLV needs to have its best performance of the year on the road in Utah State for it to even. I mean, I mentioned this in my column last week, and I know this is probably, and I know it's far fetched, but if UNLV, like you said, if they can somehow go into Utah State and win that game, and then come back home and beat New Mexico and Air Force, we're not talking about just bowl eligibility. We talked about it last week. This conference is so terrible, UNLV still has a shot at the West Division.
Yeah.
It is the longest of long shots, but if you think about it, if UNLV can somehow pull off this upset, because Utah State has not looked that good. They might be the best team in this conference, but they have not looked as impressive. Their one impressive win was at BYU, and Taysom Hill.
Well, they were both quarterbackless in that game.
Yes, but Garrettson is a good quarterback. But I'm not saying he's better than Chuck.
He's all right.
I think he's a good quarterback. He's probably, at this point, I think he's probably the best quarterback in this conference. Better than whoever else would be number one.
Yeah. Man,
Yeah.
this quarterback.
Exactly my point.
I'm trying to think. There's no way he's the best quarterback, and I'm going down to the teams. And you're probably right, man.
Like Cody Fajardo?
Dude, I am high on Cody Fajardo, but he can't throw. But he's dangerous with his feet.
Yes, he
Is
is.
Colorado State's quarterback?
Colorado State's quarterback is better than Garrett
They're
Grayson.
good.
Okay.
It's a good football team.
That is a good football team.
Yeah, that Colorado
Colorado State, I think, is the best team in the Mountain West.
Colorado State probably.
UNLV's lucky they don't play them.
Yes, they are. Well, they might play them in the conference title game if UNLV gets that far.
Yeah, if they get that far,
If they get that
God
far.
bless them. Like, who cares?
Well, oh my goodness, but I mean, it's still wide open. I mean, you saw Hawaii beat Wyoming last week. Reno went down; they lost. So I mean, that West Division right now that Fresno State lost, it's wide open again. And UNLV has seen it and is like, hey, we still got a shot. It's a very long shot, but I mean, I kind of look back at the Central Michigan game last year. That was the season-defining win that kind of turned things around. Is this Fresno State game the kind of thing that can turn this team around going into the end of the year?
Until I see them play, like you said, competent football on the road, I won't believe it. If they can
That was
go up to
also
Utah
early
State,
in the year.
if they can go
It's
up,
different. That makes a
yeah,
difference too.
if they can go up to Utah State and even compete with them, I'll be impressed. If this game was at home, I think UNLV's got a pretty good shot at beating Utah State without Keaton.
They almost beat them last year at home. If bad coaching in the final
Last year's
drive
team was
wasn't
better than this, but
Bad
my
coaching.
point is they're on the road. It's terrible. They've been terrible on the road. If they can prove that they can win on the road, then maybe.
Yeah.
Like I
But
said,
they
if,
can't-
if they somehow do pull it off by a miracle,
We're talking a whole.
they're
different
looking
ballgame.
in good shape because
Especially their division.
That's what I'm saying. That
Yeah.
West Division is terrible. It's now
Maybe
wide
5-5. Oh, you're talking about conference wise, yeah.
conference play.
Conference wise, if you come back,
They'd have a
with 3 straight
4-game
wins-
conference winning streak
That's
and be
4-2.
4-2 in the conference. If they were to win that game, you're looking good coming home.
And then-
they've played well at home, much better at home.
San
if this
Jose
New
State-
Mexico and Air Force were at New Mexico and Air Force, then I wouldn't feel nearly
Yeah.
as good about those
But
games.
Fresno State, I think they're going to lose another game at some point in this conference schedule.
Probably.
So, I mean, obviously we're looking too far ahead, and that's not ideal.
That's what
but
we're allowed to do.
Hawaii's not going to stay undefeated in the West Division for much long.
Hawaii's not good, especially with Iosefa injured.
Yes, but I mean UNLV with that how bad that division is, they have a shot. I mean the winner of this division is going to have to go to Boise and play in the title game anyway. So I mean, there's really no point. But
They have a shot.
they have a shot.
That's crazy.
The window is
There's
open.
a chance.
Yeah.
There is a. So you're saying there's a chance, but
Don't
there
be
is.
down on them, Randy. Don't be down on them.
It ain't.
I'm not. I'm right there with Randy. My
Oh.
my whole thing about them, that's completely hypothetical. I think in 2 weeks after this Utah State game, we're going to be back to how we were talking about them last week.
Pretty much.
Because it's on the road, and this team is just
Pretty much.
like for comparison, I think Fresno State is significantly better than San Jose State. They handled Fresno State at home. They looked like complete trash against a worse San Jose State team just because it's on the road. Whatever it is about being on this road, this team just can't figure it out.
Big one in 2 weeks against Utah State. We'll talk more about that next week.
Yep.
We got a lot more to talk about, including basketball is back at UNLV.
That's crazy.
I know, right? It's amazing. The Scarlet and Gray Showcase is tonight, I believe. Is it?
Yes,
Tonight. For some reason, I thought it was on tomorrow, Friday.
No.
But it is tonight. The Scarlet and Gray Showcase. The entire UNLV roster has been changed. Ken Birch is gone. Bryce John Jones is gone. Roscoe Smith is gone. And we finally get to see, guys, the 3 freshmen. Rashad Vaughn, Dwayne Morgan, and
Good luck.
Okanobo.
Can't
So-
forget that name.
You can't forget that name, even though it was kind of slipping away. I mean, we've been on basketball hiatus since like March, so I
Yeah.
mean, if anything. But Jesse, you'll be there. I mean, what kind of things are you looking for early? I mean, we can't look into a scrimmage.
This is a
much.
joke for Dave Rice. They're going to throw a bunch of stuff out there just for the fans. It's like an NBA All-Star game sort of thing. But there are 2 things that I really want to look at. And if you're going in there just to watch them, they're going to have a bunch of dunks probably. If you want to look at something like
Significant.
strategically with this team. The number one thing I want to see is Christian Wood in the paint. I want to see him step foot in the paint. That's the first thing I'm going to be looking at. I'm going to be watching Christian Wood get the hell away from the three-point line. Stay away from it. Don't ever go out there ever again. Now you're the center on this team.
But he's a young KD, man.
He's Kevin Durant, yeah.
Yeah.
The thing
he
is,
ain't going to be a young KD in this offense now. You're
he
expected to be a
is the big
center.
man. He's the big man on this team.
He's bigger now.
Yeah, he's
put on some
gained
muscle.
He gained weight to get to 140 pounds. So,
yeah.
he's
This
still
this
tiny.
team, one
Terrible.
of the key components on this team. This team has got well, we don't know what these freshmen are going to be, but looking at it on paper, this team has some of the best wing play in the country.
Yes.
The keys to
wing
this
talent.
wing talent.
Play.
Wing talent in the country. They're unbelievably stacked. We got guys who would be starting on other Mountain West teams that aren't going to be able to find minutes on this team on the wing. It's part of the reason Bryce Jones took off because he had no chances at getting minutes with these guys. The key to this season will be the bigs down low, and I use the word bigs loosely. They don't have any bigs, but so I want to see Christian Wood. Obviously, it's not going to be real hard defense. I want to see him post up. I want to see him do some post moves. I want to see him get some rebounds down there. I just want to see him down there doing anything. That's the main thing I want to look at. And then the other thing is, you got the wing play is solid. We need bigs down low, and we need a point guard. And I want to
That's
see
where I'm going.
Cody Doolin is going to be. This team will go as Cody Doolin goes. I want to see him run the offense. Obviously, like I said, this isn't going to be real tough defense, but you'll be able to see right away if they've got chemistry, if he's going to be able to run this team. This team has lacked point guard play for forever. Even when Anthony Marshall was here,
True point. I was gonna say true
Anthony
point
Marshall
guard
was
play.
a great player. He wasn't a great point guard. He was a
Right.
two guard playing the point guard. If he can be the point guard they need, then this team could be really, really, really good. So I want to see, especially with Daquan Cook out for the season, it's going to be all up to Doolin.
My number one thing I'm looking for is your number two, which is Cody Doolin. By everything I've read, everything I've heard, all the interviews I've seen, he is a true point guard, a pass-first point guard. He does not like to score. He doesn't care about scoring.
High IQ.
Very high IQ. I mean, the guy's already been a 4-year player at San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
so he has the experience. He has everything that UNLV has lacked for since Wink Adams, Marcus
Probably,
Banks. I mean,
yeah.
honestly, like
Marcus, Oscar Belfield.
Oscar
yeah,
Belfield
Oscar Belfield.
was,
He was a point
good.
guard.
He shot a little too much for my
But,
opinion. But yes, he was
my
good.
point is, he has everything you want in a point guard. He has a high IQ. He's good on the defensive end. He likes to pass. He doesn't care about scoring. He's our version of like a TJ McDonald from Arizona, or like an Aaron Kraft, just way better offensively. Even though he doesn't want to score. So that's the number one thing I'm looking for. I want to see Cody Doolin lead this team. I want to see how he picks everybody's heads up if they're struggling. I want to see how he grabs everybody, brings them into a nice little huddle. I want to see that leadership. The second thing I'm looking for is defense. And more specifically, I'm looking at Dwayne Morgan. From everything I've read also and all the interviews I heard, he is like our Roscoe Smith this year. He's the hype guy. He's high intensity, and he likes to get after it on the defensive end. But what Roscoe didn't have, he has, and that's an offensive game. So I'm looking
And
at
he's
Dwayne.
much more athletic.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But and everybody talks about good luck being the defensive presence down low, and that could be very well true. That could very well be true. But I want to see Dwayne Morgan. I want to see his intensity as a freshman. I want to see if he's all over the place on the court. I want to see this defense. I want to see this defense as a whole. We have a lot of young kids, a lot of young talent, but we are athletic and long. And if we play defense the right way, UNLV is going to give a lot of teams problems.
For me on the defense, the reason I didn't have three things, because the defense would have been my third thing, but I honestly don't think Dave Rice is going to show much in this Scarlet. It's going to be like an NBA All-Star game type
I want to
thing.
see something. See,
But
I think the All-Star
thing
game is
I'm-
going to be before that. They have a dunk contest. They have the Slam Social or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Whatever. They have all that. They have the skills thing that's going to happen. They have all that going on. When it comes to the scrimmage, I know it's going to be a lot of fancy, hoopla and this and that. But I want to see a little something. And I think in the beginning we will.
The thing that I would really love to see, I don't think even if they do play some serious defense, I don't think Dave Rice will unveil this because he'd rather wait to use it in a real game. But since Dave Rice has become coach here, we were used to full court press from Lon Kruger all day, every day. Since Rice got here, he's been hinting that he wanted to use it. He just couldn't because he didn't have the athletes. If you can't run a full court defense with these types of athletes,
But they're
then you're
young.
not running one.
But they're young. You need to have experience when you,
I agree.
when you press full court. So
But
they have the talent.
Dave
They
Rice
have the length.
Dave Rice has been chomping at the bit to use a full court press for the benefits that they'll get on offense from it, so that they can run more.
Now, if they display that like come conference play, I think that would be awesome because you got to get your wings under you in out of conference, non-conference play,
And they've got
And
a
if they
ridiculous schedule.
Exactly. And if they can mature that quickly, which they probably will when you play Duke, and you play a Stanford team that people are sleeping on, that's going to give UNLV problems. Stanford, you mature quickly. So come conference play, if they bust that out, I would be all for that. And they have the talent and athletic ability.
I think in the exhibition you could see it.
Yeah.
Just to test it out. And like I said, Dave Rice, from everything every year preseason, that's all he says. We're running full court press. And then they'll run it for about 15 minutes, and then he's like, yeah, this ain't going to work. And then they should never do it again all season. So I think Dave Rice has been trying to get an athletic team. He's been getting a bunch of junior college guys. He finally has a team of his guys, the type of guys he's been wanting since he got here in UNLV. And I think we might finally see that full court press like Long Crew used to run, and the running on offense, which would lead from that. So, but like I said, I don't think that's something you're going to look for in the showcase. I don't think we see full court press. Even if they are going to run it during the season, I don't think we see it. So that's why I left it off. But I agree the defense will be fun to watch.
I'm excited to see these three big-time freshmen. I mean, everyone's been talking about them forever now. It feels like they've been signed for like 20 years.
Well, when you had the offseason that UNLV had, it kind of feels like 20 years.
So, obviously the showcase is what it is, but will the stage of this season be too big for them? Obviously expectations are low with them being picked fourth in Mount West, but will
not for the fans?
That's true. will these freshmen will the stage be too big, or will they step up and be, because they are freshmen, they're young kids. People sometimes forget that they're just coming out of high school. So we'll see how they do. I think Cody Doolin is the key to the season. Like you said, we haven't had solid an actual point guard in a long time, and Dave Rice always talks about that in his offense and how you need that good point guard play to actually get this offense flowing and moving and passing. So we'll see how big of a factor he is, because they only have him for 1 year, so you might as well utilize him as much as you can. So I'm excited to see
One
that.
thing, real quickly, I'm looking at the roster, and first off, we look like we're Kentucky. All I see is just freshmen.
That's what I'm saying.
But one thing we didn't talk about, and I thought maybe you would touch on, Jordan, is your boy Ben Carter coming in from Oregon.
The only reason, because he's not playing this year, but
but I think that him having the experience of playing in the Pac-12, you don't necessarily in basketball have to be on the court to make an impact, and his experience playing in the Pac-12, playing against top-level competition, making it to an Elite 8 or Sweet 16. No, Elite 8.
16.
Did they? Was it Sweet 16?
The Sweet 16.
No, they lost to Wisconsin.
Anyway,
whatever. That experience right there, I think, would help a lot. And I think he's going to be very key in helping out a lot of these young guys.
He'll be
develop
practicing
on the
with them
court.
every day.
Exactly.
I think he'll be. I watched Ben play a lot, and he's definitely got that. He's going to be one of the older guys on the team. He's going to have to be there. And he's played in some big games, like we said. I was thinking 2 years ago when they lost to Louisville.
Yeah.
And they lost to Wisconsin last year, which they should have won that game.
Yeah.
If you're over the age of if you're legal to drive, you're the veteran on this team.
Exactly.
so Jelon Kendrick, come on down.
Yeah, for real. You don't have to be very experienced to be the most experienced player on this team. If you've stepped on a college basketball court, you're in the top 3 in experience.
And we talk about these freshmen, these stars, but we forget the bench, how big of a role they're going to be this year. Especially because these freshmen are going to go through these freshman slumps.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Christian Wood might start firing up threes out of nowhere. You're going to have to rely on this bench.
This is going to be like the Phoenix Suns offense.
Especially with Daquan Cook out. They're going to be big. You've got these transfers. You got a lot of people coming in, so we'll see how they all mesh together. It's crazy how it's a brand new team, it feels like.
They've got two players on the roster over 6'8", and they both weigh 200 pounds combined. Okanobo, and I saw him walking around campus, and
he ain't 6'8".
When I saw him, I was like, is that just a midget that looks like Good Luck Okanobo? Dude, he was standing next to the other 2 freshmen, and he wasn't
that much taller
than them.
Well, that's what these listings
That's why
are. Christian Wood, 6'11", about 6'9". You know,
The thing
Oh,
is,
no, it was 6'10",
that's why I
about
said
6'10".
Christian Wood is the man. I'll tell you this: if Christian Wood starts jacking up threes, the season is done.
I think another thing
Over.
that's key is at two positions where you need some sort of leadership. In my opinion, the point guard and then the either wing, 2 or 3. You got Jelon Kendrick and Kendall Smith coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Both who played last year, both who have experience with the Mountain West Conference, both who can talk to these guys, get them in the right mindset that they need to be in. Kendall and Cody can play in the backcourt together, which would be great. Jelon can play with any of those guys, Cody, Rashad, Dwayne, any of those guys. So I think that helps a lot too. Last year we had a bench that was all young, and this year I feel like we have a bench that
you
two
gain experience.
players, but
you gain experience when you go to the bench.
Yeah. Right, and that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
So I like that.
You know who we haven't mentioned that I know all the UNLV basketball fans are looking forward to seeing the most? Sir Dantley Walker. He's going to try like a couple half-court threes in the showcase
They
tomorrow.
love him. They love
every
him.
time he touches the ball, the Thomas Mack Center explodes for whatever reason.
He can make threes. He's probably the best 3-point shooter on the team.
I hope
he doesn't
not,
even
but-
touch the floor.
Yeah, I don't know what the fascination is with this kid, but the fans love him.
Because
So
he's 5'11",
we'll see him.
because he's 5'11", weighs 170 pounds, he can make it from anywhere on the floor.
Yeah, but yeah,
He can shoot.
He's
He
one-
can shoot it from the upper bowl in Thomas and Mack with the game on the
Good.
line, and he will swish it.
I don't know if he'll touch the
Even
court
though he'll
this
be called
season.
out of bounds, he will still make that three, and UNLV will somehow win the game.
I don't know if he'll touch the court this season.
He probably.
Probably in garbage time, he'll come in and the stadium will erupt like they did.
You will see.
But the
the only
fans love
time
him.
the only time you probably see Dantley Walker touch the floor this year, it's not because he's not any good. It's because the backcourt is still crowded. If Kendall Smith goes down with an injury, then you can probably see a guy like Dantley Walker step in and take back up.
Really though, because you still have Seegers and Cornish and freaking all these other guys.
Well, those guys are mainly combo. You don't want like a 2 running a 1 anymore at this point.
I don't want Dantley Walker running a 1.
But who do you want?
That makes
But
me
if Kendall
sick to my
Smith goes
stomach.
down,
No.
Grant
Just,
Morgan.
hey, if Kendall Smith goes
good luck hooking
down,
up
Doolin,
with him.
you better get ready for 40 minutes a game, bud, because we ain't putting Dantley Walker in.
I will say this though. I'm looking forward to seeing Rashad.
Yes,
Preseason-
absolutely.
Preseason freshman of the year. A lot of people are projecting he'll be one and done. I want to see if his
Okay,
talent.
I'm going
is
to go out and
capable.
say I'm not projecting. It's going like he's done.
He's
This
done.
is his only year of college basketball. He's going to play very well. If he doesn't play well, he's still going.
He's one of those guys I've watched a ton of. I've never seen him play a full high school game in person, but I've watched a lot of his videos online, and he can score in every way humanly possible. There's not a way that he's not elite at. He's an elite shooter. He's an elite mid-range guy. He's elite driving to the hoop. He can dunk over anyone. There's not a way that he can score that you could possibly score that he's not great at. Not just he's decent enough at shooting. Like he's great at everything on the offensive side of the floor.
No, he's the type of guy who can take over a game.
Yes.
Like, remember when Anthony Marshall used to get hot and he would score like 10 baskets in a row?
Mhm.
He's like that times 10.
Yeah.
I remember I went to the Finley Prep Gorman game last year, and Finley was down big time, probably about 12 points. He took about 4 steps across the half-point line, jacked up about 3 threes in a row with 10 seconds left and they're tied. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's got the confidence to do it, and he's got the ability to do it.
Hopefully he can bring that confidence to the college level.
Exactly.
When you got the Thomas and Mack is an unbelievably big arena. I don't think people in Vegas. I think people sometimes underestimate how it's bigger than the Staples Center.
Yeah.
And when it's full, and these kids, they are kids still,
Mhm.
it completely changes.
Well, it's
and
one
if
of
you
the
miss
biggest college arenas in the country, right?
Yeah,
I think
it is.
what the Carrier Dome's is bigger.
Duke, Cameron
No,
Indoor,
we're bigger than Cameron Indoor.
is it really?
Cameron Indoor is more compact.
So
Cameron
they're
Indoor is
about
the
that
same,
close to your
yeah.
face while you're
Pretty
shooting
much.
threes. But it's big. I think it's like one of the biggest. I think like west of the Mississippi or whatever they say. But and these UNLV fans are unforgiving as they come. If you miss a couple threes, they're going to start booing you. Just ask Bryson
John
Jones.
Jones.
So he's got that confidence. We'll see if it's not an easy thing to do to be confident at the Thomas and Mack Center with these fans. They're
Yeah.
relentless.
And before we move on, I also am interested in seeing Jelon Kendrick in his second year in this system. He obviously had some rough points last year. He didn't know what position he was. They put him at backup point guard at some points. They put him at starting small forward at some points when they're bringing Bryce Jones off the bench. He's going to probably be the sixth man on this team more than likely. So I want to see what has he done in his game. Is his offensive game a little bit better than it was last year? I mean, we don't know. We don't know what kind of player Jalen Kendrick is, and I want to see that.
He was fairly solid down the stretch. We made a lot of jokes early in the year. His offensive game was bad. He couldn't get the ball within 3 feet of the hoop, let alone make it. But he turned that around, and he was solid towards the end of the year. I expect him to be.
I mean, he's 6'6". He can drive. He can shoot. He can shoot. He can't make it. He can shoot.
No, he has an offensive game. It's raw, but it's going to be better than what we saw last year, where he's airballing floaters from the baseline.
Yeah, and it wasn't like that down the stretch.
Right.
That was really
he
the
developed
first
an offensive
yeah.
game at the end of
Like
the
the
year.
first 25% of the season, it was ugly. From then on, he wasn't great. He had a couple games where he went off. He's a really streaky shooter.
Yeah.
Which
hopefully he's changed that now. He's a senior.
Yeah.
Let's hope. But we'll talk more about basketball in a couple of weeks. Season starts 2 weeks from now. Amazing.
30 days or 29 days, I think now.
29 days?
28 days.
A long time.
Coming up.
Long time, but it's coming up. It's coming up quick. But that is the Scarlet. We were joking before the podcast we started. Charlotte and Gray, as Jesse elaborated. I almost said that. Scarlet and Gray showcase tonight at the top of the Mac. I believe it is at 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, yes.
7 o'clock.
Free.
And it's free, yes. All right, so let's move on to the sports that are still going on, and especially probably the hottest sport going right now, guys, is men's soccer. And man, what a weekend for the men's soccer team! As they started the bulk of conference play. The two big games this past weekend against Seattle and Utah Valley. And Randy, this team is in first place. They're creeping up on top 25 votes. This team, they can't be stopped right now after what we just saw over the weekend.
They are playing unbelievably right now. They really just, I mean, it's hard to put into words what this soccer team is doing right now unless you've been following this for the entire season. I mean, they start out 6-0. I'm sorry, 5-0. They lose a bad game to Gonzaga, 4-2. Turn around, lose to Irvine, a game that they really desperately wanted to win or at least compete in. Lose 4-2, and they tied Detroit right before that, which is a pretty awful team. And you're sitting there to yourself and you're saying, okay, this team's 5-2-1. It's a good record, but I mean, here come the losses, here comes the disappointment. And they've done nothing but take that and shove it right back down people's throats that are saying that. They're on a 4-game win streak now. They got since the the Irvine loss. Since the 4-2 Irvine loss, they've done nothing but dominate their opponents. They beat Riverside. They beat Grand Canyon. They went to Seattle, the preseason #1 team in the Western Athletic Conference, which people don't put a lot of stock into those rankings, and that's understandable. But they did win the conference last year, and they have a lot of the same team returning. And they smacked them 3-1 in Seattle. Go on the road to a Utah Valley team that's big, strong, physical. You know, they have 20, 21-year-old redshirt freshmen on the team, and they go beat them. They play a great defensive game in the cold and the wind, and on Bernal's penalty kick, beat them 1-0. There's nothing that this team cannot do, both offensively and defensively. And now that the freshman Danny Musovsky is getting going, it's going to be scary for teams that are playing UNLV.
You've been saying that all year, just waiting for it.
And it's happening. He finally broke through in the Riverside game, scored again in the Grand Canyon game, and then scored the 2 of the 3 goals in the first half in the Seattle game, in the 14th minute and the 33rd minute or something like that. So he's finally coming along. Bernal scored again, like I said, in the Utah Valley game. You got Kyle Melly's anchoring the back line of the defense. Ryan Harding playing phenomenal. He's now 3rd on UNLV's all-time shutout list for a goalie, and 2nd on UNLV's all-time single-season shutout list for a goalie.
Does he have a chance to reach the all-time one?
I don't know exactly what the number is, but I know they have 7 games left. So I'm assuming that he does have enough time.
And then the tournament also.
And then I don't know. I'm sure they do count the tournament as part of the single-season streak,
You know what,
but I don't know. I'll find out what the record is because I don't know, and I should know that. But I'll find out what the record is, especially if he keeps this up. But they're making headway. They're making headway nationally. They were ranked 6th last week after their 3 wins in a row against Riverside, Grand Canyon, and
Seattle?
No, I'm sorry. After 2 wins in a row against Riverside and Grand Canyon,
Okay.
they were ranked 6th in the West region. After the dominating Seattle and beating Utah Valley, they're number 1 in the West region right now.
Wow.
Seattle's number 2, so they're significantly better than the number 2 team. Air Force is number 3, and Air Force comes to UNLV this Friday, October 17th.
Big
And they
game.
have a good squad, so that's going to be a good game. They also jump back into the top 30 poll in college soccer news' top 30. They're number 27. Their RPI before this past weekend in the October 13th ratings was 81. It's 32 now.
Jeez.
They rank in the top 10 in the nation in scoring. They're tied for 6th with 28 goals in the entire nation. And their winning percentage at .792, which is their 9-1-2 record, is tied for 8th in the nation.
That is amazing.
They are absolutely dominating teams, and they need to get recognized. This Friday is the 40th anniversary for UNLV soccer for the program, and it's a perfect event for everybody to come out to and support UNLV in a big time WAC conference game or Western Athletic Conference game, and a game that could and should propel them into the top 25 of the NSCAA rankings. Because right now they're the first team out of the top 25 rankings, but they're receiving the most votes.
Of all the teams
Of
out.
all the teams
so
out.
they're right on the edge of it.
Mhm.
And like you said, they're getting done on both sides. You got a goalie who's on the verge of breaking records, and you've got Salvador Bernal, who's tied for 20th in the nation in goals.
Yeah.
And the offense with the freshmen coming along and a few other guys, none of them are really standing out, but the set pieces, some guys are getting goals on those, and they're tied for 8th in the country in goals per game at 2.33 goals a game. When you're tied when you're the top 10 in scoring and your goalie's as hot as Harding is right now, you're going to be tough to beat for any team. And like you said, now they're number 1 in the West. It's looking like they're going to be playing some extra games.
Yeah,
this season.
and their goal. When I talked to I've talked to Bernal and Ryan Harding outside of practice, just around campus and whatnot. And their goal is to make the NCAA tournament. They're not satisfied with just making the WAC right now. And they're so balanced. That's what's good about this team. There's not just one aspect that's really good and not good in the other. Their offense is great. Their defense is great. They have a good goalkeeper. They have a nice, they have a captain who's an elite scorer, an elite striker. They have a freshman who's on the up and up. Everything's going right for them. I'm looking at some numbers right now for Ryan Harding. In 1,056, almost 57 minutes played on the soccer field, he's allowed 13 goals and has 6 shutouts. I mean, his numbers are insane, really, and he's one of the better goalkeepers in the Western Athletic Conference.
And just a couple weeks ago, there was a controversy.
Yeah.
That was
Like I said, I
Silly.
thought that was Ryerson just kind of scaring.
But since that, UNLV has outscored their last 4 opponents 9-1.
Yeah, his goals against average is insane. Right now, for the season, it's 1.11. In those games since Rodriguez started, it's probably 1 goal in 10 games, or one goal in
the 1 goal is against Seattle.
yeah, in
1
4
goal
games,
in 4 games, so it's
Yeah.
.025?
Yeah.
0.25 goals against average. So it's really something to watch. And I urge everybody watching this or anyone that's heard about the soccer team, that's followed the articles or any of the coverage, go watch them, because it's fun to watch a team that nearly was eliminated from the program now be one of the best teams in the country. Not in the West, not in Nevada or the Midwest, in the country. So
They got a chance to do something. They got Air Force on Friday, UMKC on Sunday, and then make one weekend trip to Texas to play Incarnate Ward. I just love saying that school name. And Houston Baptist.
Which that should be like a
So I mean, we're talking about possibly
Houston Baptist is they're decent. Incarnate Word is not that good, but Incarnate Word is second in the conference right now
what?
because they're 2-0.
Is this just one of them like Hawaii things where they just
I know,
happen
right?
to have played like 2 easy teams?
Right, and they're 2-0.
Okay, yeah.
But they're not a good team.
They
at
won't
all.
be second for long.
No.
Okay. Well, that is Friday again at Peter Young Memorial Field. Air Force on tomorrow, and Kansas City on Sunday. 7 o'clock Start time for Air Force 1 o'clock. Start time for UMKC.
Also, like I said, it's the 40th anniversary of the inception of the program, and it's the breast cancer awareness game. So if you wear pink, any shade of pink, you get half off admission into the game. If you have your Rebel card, you obviously don't have to worry about that. But anybody that's not a student that wants to go, wear some shade of pink, and you get half off.
That's the biggest game of the season remaining.
Well, Bakersfield is right
Okay,
there
yeah.
with Air Force too, because they're both teams are like 8-3-1 or 9-3-1. They're right there with UNLV as far as record goes.
Yeah.
And we got past Seattle. We don't have to see them hopefully again until the WAC tournament. But Air Force, Bakersfield, those are going to be tough games, and we get them at home, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, that is on Friday. Air Force game at 7 o'clock at Peter Yohan Memorial Field. Come support your 9-2-1 UNLV soccer team, who have only lost one time at home this year, and against again the number 14 in the country.
Number 7 now. I think,
Number
but
7
still,
now? Still
at the time, number 14 in the nation.
and a couple more wins. We'll probably be seeing this team back in the top 25.
Absolutely.
Only
even
one
a
ranking.
split this weekend, if they beat Air Force, they should be ranked in the top 25. Especially if they dominate them like they did Seattle.
Pretty much. All right, well, let's move on, guys, real quick. We're running out of time, but we got to talk about women's soccer real quick. And I mean, kind of, it hasn't been that much of an easy of a stretch, Jordan. I mean, we're talking about a team that had a really good non-conference slate, looked really strong going into conference play, and now they've just seemed falling flat.
We talked last week how big this last weekend was going to be for this team and the rest of the season. And unfortunately for them, they came out and they got shut out twice at home. San Diego State, that was a very good team. We talked about that'd be a great win if they won, but we don't expect them to win. They actually had them, it was 0-0 at halftime with San Diego State, and San Diego State just came out and they attacked in the second half and just won that game. It's really disappointing that they lost 1-0 to New Mexico, though. The same story all year. They outshot New Mexico. They played on the offense a lot, but they just couldn't get the ball in the back of the goal. I talked to Coach today, and everyone knows what the problem is. They just can't score. And in all 6 of their losses, I was looking today, they've been shut out in all 6 of them, haven't recorded 1 goal. So obviously the key to this team is at least scoring 1 goal.
A goal.
A goal. Like I said, when I talked to Coach today, he said, we know that. We know that's been our problem. He's like, once we get 1 goal in, we seem to gain that confidence to be able to win. Problem is getting that 1 goal in. I mean, like I said, all 6 of their losses have come to a shutout. And so as well as they played on the road in those 6-game stretch, they come home for 4 games, go 1-3, score 3 goals in the 1 game. But besides that, don't get any other goals at home. And it doesn't get any easier. They got to go up to Colorado Springs this weekend. 4 of their last 5 are on the road.
Which might be a good thing the way they're playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought after talking to Coach Shaw, he this team understands that this season can still be successful. They also know how crucial of a weekend and how big of an opportunity it was last weekend that they missed out on. Like I said all year, they've just struggled to score. They don't have one person who can score. Like I said before, Susie Burnell, Sal's sister, she was going to be that girl who's going to score, but she's out for the year. Tore ACL, sprained MCL. This is a young team, so you don't really have that leadership or know who is going to be the person or that experience to be able to score. So it's a big weekend ahead. I asked Coach what would make this end of the season a successful one. And he said hopefully winning at least 3 out of these next 5 games. So I think if they can win 3 out of 5, they'd finish 10-8, 10-8-1. I think 10 years in your first year with 10 wins with a first year coach. And this is first coaching in Division I soccer and a young team. I think that's not a bad year. It's just tough when you play so well on the road and you come home and expect to have a break and you're ready to get things going and you just fall flat at home.
That road trip raised the expectations for the season. I think before the road trip, what they've accomplished to this point was about on par for what they expected, but because they did so well, it kind of raised the expectations and then they let them down a little bit.
And it's not, and in all these losses, UNLV has only been outshot twice by San Diego State and Colorado State. San Diego State was just a really good team, like we said. But UNLV is out shooting all of their opponents. Just they're on the attack. They're playing well. They just can't come away with that goal. And obviously in soccer, when you can't at least get 1 goal in the net, you're not going to win a lot of games. And so hopefully in these next 5 games, they can kind of look towards the future and who's going to be that upcoming player for next year. Because this is, like I said, this is a young team. They've got a very bright future ahead. They've got a freshman goalie who she had a good year in the goal. They've got a lot to look forward to. So hopefully they can finish out this season strong. Maybe get those 3 wins, like Coach said. Finish with 10 wins. Maybe score a few more goals. We'll see. But yeah, last weekend was a tough one for them.
But if anything has shown us in recent memory about women's soccer in the Mountain West, it's this: momentum carries you into the postseason.
Yes, definitely does.
UNLV had a lot of momentum going into the conference tournament last year before they slipped up in the first round and lost on I believe they lost on a penalty shootout. But if they can somehow get out of that road trip and win 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 5, then you kind of start talking. Well, maybe this team can be a dark horse going into the conference tournament. I mean, they were pretty much dead. They were pretty much not even considered not even a contender, not even a dark horse last year until they reeled off 4 out of 6, I believe, to close out the year. So this is a crucial road trip.
You know what can boost their momentum, even if they don't win any of those road games, is the last game of the season at Reno for Danny's favorite trophy on the face of the earth, the Governor Series trophy.
God dang it.
You look at their final,
and Reno's bad, so I could
bad.
see them going up there and smashing them, and then just that game alone could give them momentum.
I mean, you look at their final opponents: Colorado College, a team that some thought could compete with San Diego State. They're 7-4-3. Air Force are 5-7-1, and then you get Boise 5-7-3, Nevada 4-10-1, and who's the other one? And Utah State, who sits in second, I believe, third at 8-4.
Utah State, is in third place.
So you've got your mix of your good and your bad, but UNLV's right in the middle. I think they're a very middle of the pack team this Mountain West. I don't think they're bad, and I don't think they're overly great. Obviously, they can't score, which is big, obviously, in soccer.
Scoring is important.
Yes. But I think they're right there in the middle. I think next year, I don't want to look ahead to next year. I'm just saying I think they've got a lot of potential on this team, especially how young they are. They just need to find someone who can score or at least do something to get a goal because...
Is Bernal going to be back next year?
She will be back. I believe they said she'll be running around by around February. So
Right in time for spring ball.
Yep. So she'll be back. They'll get Denali. She'll be back. Their leading scorer this year. They get the freshman goalie back. So we'll see. But hopefully they can build some momentum up for the Mountain West tournament. We'll see how they do.
Yeah. Well, that is they start this road trip Friday, right?
Friday at
Colorado
College,
and then Air Force on Sunday.
Yep.
So big stretch of games coming up for UNLV women's soccer. And before we get out of here, guys, just want to make a quick note, though. While the Charlotte and Gray showcase goes on tomorrow, or tonight. God dang it. Tonight, the Lady Rebels Rise and Shine is this Saturday. We get the chance to see the Lady Rebels, who are projected to finish 6th in the Mountain West this year. Colorado State's projected to win the Mountain West again in women's basketball. But Lady Rebels coming back with 3 returning starters in Elena Cesars, Danielle Miller, and Allie Rohde, and a brand new bench. They lost a lot of leadership last year. So this is going to be a very interesting year for Kathy Olivier and her Lady Rebels squad.
Yeah, not as fresh of a start as men's basketball, but a pretty big turnover.
Big turnover, but a lot of potential.
Yes.
A lot of potential on that.
Just like the men's.
Yes. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us. And another good podcast, guys. Good stuff. But we got to go to class. I just realized that. Thanks, guys, for joining us. We will see you next time. Until next time, for Jordan, Randy, and Jesse, I'm Danny. We'll see you guys next week.